Hello, everyone. Welcome. It is Wednesday night, October 27th, and we are here with another episode of Continuum, here with the team from the Eagle, New York. Continuum, as you will all remember, is a program we started about 3 years ago because senior LGBTQ people, as pioneers of the movement that have brought greater freedom and acceptance to our community, deserve our respect and attention. As they age, we, their concerned friends, associates, and colleagues, want to ensure that they will not be forgotten nor their welfare taken for granted. Using combined resources, we aim to facilitate first awareness, then eradication of the isolation and desolation faced by so many of our senior members nationwide. To that end, we seek to enlist the help of local governments, health agencies, and community leaders to better forge a healthy and viable future for all. We are here tonight with another one of our wonderful programs. So far, we are joined by Mark Wind from Empire City Motorcycle Club, yes, and Michael Jeavons from Excelsior Men's Club. Differences which we will discuss. We are expecting a couple of more panelists to join us shortly. There is severe weather happening on the third block to the left, and we're just all coming together as we can. This may be one coming now. So welcome. When I first started getting into the scene, oh, by the way, I'm Witti Repartee. I'm your host for tonight. When I started getting into the leather scene, it was back in the early aughts, and one of the great events that we had every year in New York City was Leather Pride Night. And Leather Pride Night was a wonderful fundraising event. It was a coming together of the community. It was founded initially by the leather community to help Heritage of Pride back in the late 70s when they were needing funds, and the leather community came together to raise money for them, and there started a tradition. Good evening, Sage. How are you, darling?
Oh, you're muted.
You are still muted, Sage, but we see you. We're welcoming you in.
I apologize. I was trying to get the continuum backdrop, and it wouldn't work for me in time.
Yeah. But we are glad to have you here.
Thank you so much, Woody.
So Leather Pride Night began, and in the early aughts, it was the combined effort of 15 or 16 leather groups and other community organizations and a handful of people to bring it together and make it happen. And it raised hundreds of thousands of dollars over about a 30-year period for the community. 7 or 8 years ago, there was no longer a vibrant and healthy club community in New York to support it. There were still a few, but it was more individuals, and the effort that it took to put together this fundraiser was more than that group could manage on their own. So we are here tonight to talk about leather clubs, because many of them have rebounded. There are more now than there have been in years, and the stronger clubs are really, truly helping define community. So we are going to talk to Michael from Excelsior, Mark from Empire City Motorcycle Club, Sage is here from Onyx. I'm a proud member of Delta, and Diamond should be joining us from the Onyx Pearls as well to have this discussion. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to look at Mark with our first question, and we're all going to sort of go around. We're going to do some questions and answers from me, and then we will see whatever the audience has out there on Facebook Live. Hello, Facebook Live. Hello, everyone watching us in Streaming Landia. So Mark, the first question is a history question, and it's about your club itself. Can you tell me, when was it founded? And when it was founded, what need was it intended to meet? Why that club in that moment?
It was founded in October of 1964, and pre-Stonewall. And at that time, although I joined in 75, which was after Stonewall, but at that time, from what I understand, there were not a lot of places where gay men could congregate. And we were limited to certain bars. And there were very strict rules about being in bars. And people felt a little bit ostracized in different ways, especially in the leather SM kink community. And what our club was very specific about was motorcycling. We are the oldest gay motorcycle club still in existence in the entire world.
And you're here with us.
Right, and other motorcycle clubs allow members without motorcycles. But we're a very strict motorcycle-only club. Gay men, also bisexual men, have been in our club over the years. And you must be a licensed motorcyclist with current registration, etc., and have to go through different skills before you can join our club. And then you go through a pledge period to do so. And I guess that was the general need in the beginning. It was also a sense of family, which is a little bit different. For instance, and let me know if I'm saying too much, but for instance, we started a holiday party during our first year. This will now be our 58th holiday party, because we started the first one just 2 months after we were founded. And it was done to give Toys for Tots to a particular home, the Graham Wyndham home, because one of our founding members was a graduate of that foster care place. And that started our long tradition, which has steamrolled into something different, recognizing AIDS. But I'll talk about that another time.
Okay. Michael?
Yes.
Same question to you. Tell us about the founding of Excelsior and what it was intended to do.
Excelsior was founded in 1975 by 4, as it's described, courageous individuals. Terry, David, Rich, and Wally. And it was kind of an offshoot of Empire City, if I'm not mistaken. Empire City came before, and they kind of helped Excelsior kind of get it together. Excelsior does not require to have a motorcycle. So our MC is men's club instead. And I think it's kind of great tonight that the 3 kind of remaining clubs in the city, the 4 remaining clubs in the city are here. It's fantastic. We chose the name Excelsior because they tied it into the New York State motto, which is ever upward. And let's see here. It's basically started out as bar nights. People also had events in their homes and fundraisers and things like that. And so I don't know. We've been around, I think, 40 years now. We just had our anniversary during COVID, unfortunately. Yeah. So we're still going strong.
Excellent. Sage?
Well, New York's chapter started in the early 2000s, but the actual organization, Onyx, started in Chicago in 1996. And then
talk a little bit about that, because you're part of a national organization as opposed to a standalone.
Right. The national organization started in 1996 in Chicago, and from there they and it was part of just trying to do some things in the leather community. They saw other Black and men of color who had very few outlets and sometimes support when they went to leather communities, and so they really wanted to get involved to support one another. And many of the founding members all had white partners, and that wasn't the issue. That they didn't dislike white people, it's just that there were some other issues for men of color at the time. And so when they banded together in 1996 in Chicago, it was brothers that came together to talk about their love of leather, their interest in leather and kink, and how to support one another. From there, it broadened out, and then there were chapters that were started from Chicago, then they went to Atlanta, then they went to New York, and then they went to DC. And those were the first 4 chapters for many years. And then later on, we brought on LA, and then after LA, we brought on the last, and then brought on Great Lakes, which is Chicago, which is Detroit, and Cleveland. And then the last 3 came on with Deep South, which is in Florida, Lone Star, which is Texas, and Northwest, which is in Northern California. They go all the way to Seattle. And then in the early 2000s, they decided to go from states to regions. So now we're New York Northeast, as opposed to just New York. And we cover territory from Pennsylvania all the way up to Maine. And there's always fights about we have Philadelphia or not, because Philadelphia sometimes come to New York and some Philadelphians go to DC, but for Mid-Atlantic. So there's always that battle. But, you can't make anybody go anywhere. And then the Mid-Atlantic goes from Pennsylvania down to North Carolina, and the South is all divided up differently now. So it changes. And a lot of it is just about men of color who really were interested in leather and had very few outlets and support systems. And as Michael said earlier, it started out going as bar nights, but then it also quickly developed into going to each other's homes to just talk about issues. And then we created the whole pledge process and how people can become members and how you join the organizations and so on and so forth. And so that the pledge process is pretty consistent from region to region, of a couple of variances on how long it is and what the pledge master does. But there's some basic rules that we all abide by. And it's really about supporting one another in their leather kink journeys as Black and men of color. And we also have a sister organization, as you said, the Pearls, for women. And in our situation, when the Pearls started, they could be associate members of Onyx. So it was really set up very specifically for Black and men of color to be in the leadership position, where women and white people can become associate members so they can participate in the organization because they just can't hold leadership offices. So it was really important for that to happen for the men of color to take leadership in their own development of their communities and their lives.
Thank you for that, Sage. One of the things that I find interesting sitting here is that all the 3 clubs that you represent and Delta, which I represent, all of them are clubs where you have to participate with and then pledge, and then there's a membership process. None of these are sign up to just show up. They are all well thought out. And whether that is gatekeeping or whether, I think more likely that's a result of safety practices, wanting to ensure that certainly with Delta, we want to make sure that people who are coming into the club are safe, kinky players, and that there are people willing to vouch for them. And it's not just someone who's going to come in and get hurt or hurt someone, so that there is a vetting process for that. But that there is a commitment to a broader thing than just, oh, I want to do this week. You've really got to pledge, to put it on the line. One of the next questions, I think, with the rise of the internet age, a lot of changes have happened. My first night at the Lore was its last night, which is really, I'm terribly sad. I'm delighted that my husband-to-be took me there that night as we stood outside smoking cigars and watching people ask us where the new hottest little club was. And we're like growling at them because the hottest little club was replacing the Lore and all the other clubs. But since then, and the Eagle has survived, yay the Eagle. How have the memberships of your organizations grown and changed? And what has the club itself had to do to adapt to the new space? Some clubs haven't survived. GMSMA was the granddaddy of a lot, and it did not survive into the full-on internet age. A lot of other programs, I was running the New York City, the Next Generation group from GMSMA when we closed because no one was showing up. The New York Boys of Leather rose out of the ashes of that. And when they were done, all of a sudden there was room for the pup community. So turnover is great, but these clubs have existed and survived. What have you done to adapt and make sure that you're there for the next group? Sage, why don't we start with you this time and swallow your microphone a little bit.
Okay, I'll get closer. I think part of it is, you're right, absolutely. And I think Mark hinted at it before. HIV and AIDS changed our community drastically. I'm a New Yorker, and I was part of the Panthers, which created Onyx, as well as there was another group called Black Leather and Color, Blick, and that we participated in before I even knew about Onyx and the members of Onyx here in the city. So there were some clubs that started, but their members were not, some of them were HIV positive, or some of them passed. A lot of the membership changed and dwindled. Getting to where we are now, the last 2 years have been very interesting because when you watch how certain lines or groups will have a group of 8-10 members coming in and join the organization, and the next year you only have one person coming in or 1 or 2 people, and folks kind of, it waves or clicks how they join the organizations. The internet age has helped us keep connected in a lot of ways and publicize who we are, but it's been really hard to really do practical instruction, because to have someone cut across and they never pick up a flogger, to have someone cross and you can't show them the differences in the leather that they're playing with, have someone cross and trying to teach them different things about rope. It doesn't you can read it, you can watch a video on the internet, but it's not the same as having it in your hand and having someone correct you or talking to you. So that's been really a challenge for a lot of us in the last couple of years. The internet has created a broad base where people hear about it, and we can't neglect how 50 Shades of Grey made everybody and their mother think that they were now kinksters, or when the newest rock star wears a harness and a garter on in the video, everybody go, "That's my thing now." Like, girl, you don't know what you're doing.
Sage, that is true, but I'm going to say all those people wanting to be 50 Shades of Grey and all those people buying harnesses are keeping the shops open, because the leather we all buy, the toys we buy are expensive.
Absolutely.
So please
tell
sell
everybody
all the neoprene you want.
I tell everybody, leather is not a cheap hobby. If you're interested in leather, you gotta make it and have some money, because it's not a cheap hobby to be in. You're absolutely right. I'm just saying, we always have these conversations with people that they buy something because they think it's cute or it's pretty, and they have no idea what the history around it is or why they wear it. And they go, "Hey, this is good on me," or "This is my color." Like, okay, you can wear whatever you want to now. Somebody wear your movie. Don't get mad.
Okay, we are losing you every now and again, so just
I don't know
next time. I'm not sure what's. But Michael, talk about Excelsior for us.
There's a general feeling in Excelsior that the internet age has actually kind of helped us, because while it has changed the dynamics of the whole situation, it's made it easier for us to reach a lot more people and kind of reach out to the whole leather community as a whole better, and access more people, and kind of just have a lot more resources regarding that. We've had kind of some ebbs and flows, and during the AIDS crisis, it was very difficult, and we lost a lot of people during that period, unfortunately. And but in recent years, we've actually kind of been on an upswing, and now we're on a whole different sort of trajectory where We're having a lot of young people come in, which I think is fantastic. I'm really excited about that because they're the future. They bring so many new ideas about things and different takes on stuff, and I love that. And so I think all told, at the moment we're doing okay, you know, and it's good. It's good. We're happy.
Mark?
Yes, I've seen our membership grow and dwindle. And when I first joined the club, we're about 15 strong, and we built up to 25. And then some people broke off and created a new club because they didn't want the same strictures that we had. In terms of, we would meet twice a month in person at different members' houses. And we had very strict rules. So some people just wanted to ride and didn't want to do part of the things that we did. So that and the AIDS crisis, which really hit our community strong. I'm also an interfaith minister, and I led an AIDS vigil for 18 members over the years of our club that died of AIDS at the Lure. The Lure was very nice to us to let us do this service. Membership has grown, has gotten down to about 6 people. Now we're back up to about 10, and we now have emeritus members, people who can no longer ride a motorcycle or anything like that, who are in their 80s. They still want to remain, knowledgeable about what's going on in the club. They're no longer active members. They can't vote. They are welcome to come to a meeting if they choose, but they don't. And I myself, I've been president 10 times so far. The first time was in 1981. And I've seen membership blossom and dwindle and come up. And now with the COVID situation, we're actually increasing because motorcycles are social distance machines. When you're on a motorcycle, you're naturally socially distant. And so it was very popular. So during the hot times of COVID, we were still riding. And I think it's just wonderful that we do things with other clubs now. The club scene is becoming more intermingled with each other, and we are becoming more mutually supportive of each other. Years ago, we used to have events with other clubs, including the Sirens, which are all a women's motorcycle club, who lead the Pride March. Mm-hmm. And most people don't even know why they lead the Pride March. But it is a political statement. Because when we came into being in our club, in the gay movement, women were the invisible minority. And so by having them up front and leading, we were making a statement. Just as we're doing with our brothers and sisters of color. It's an important statement to be made, and that's what's going on now.
Yes.
So I'm not sure if I sort of answered your question or maybe started to answer another question or whatever. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
With the question.
Before you do though, Mark, I just want to say to our viewers out there in Facebooklandia, we will be taking your questions. So if you want to start posting them in the chat, we will have those given to us here in the Zoom. We are happy to talk about any aspect of club life that we can address. So throw your questions out because we are engaged with you. We just don't know who you are yet, but we will soon. Mark, go ahead.
Yes, Witti. The question that I was asking, because I didn't know the exact format of tonight,
Mhm.
But I'm wondering, when someone says something, is it okay to comment, meaning that it kind of interrupts them? I don't know what your format is. Is it okay to have a freer flow going on, or do you want to keep it this contained? I'm just asking.
Absolutely. We can have as free a conversation as we want, as long as we're giving each other the chance to answer our own questions first.
Okay.
Let's treat it like, when I used to run support groups. If you've already spoken on something, you don't need to speak again until everyone else has had a chance, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Because I know I will chime in and overrun everybody, but then I'm the drag queen, and I'm the Leo. So
I'm a Leo too.
oh God, two of us. So yeah, it's interesting. I sort of want to take on that and the last bit of conversation, because COVID has been interesting. You've been able to meet at Empire City because
Yes.
motorcycles are social distance machines. That's a great way to put it. A lot of us have been functioning on Zoom. Delta did not have a run in 2020, but did do one this year in 2021
Yes.
with some pretty strict protocols in place when we were in meal times and transportation places that we were forced to be together.
Mm-hmm.
So we're all adapting, but I think we're coming into a time, and you can all agree with me or push back, where we've been spending so much time in these boxes over the last 18 months that we crave, we are thirsty for human contact. And
Yeah.
the next couple of years may also give us a chance, as we were talking about 2 months ago in this very discussion, about intentionality and kindness and support and finding ways to be there for each other that we might have overlooked. We might have been assholes. We might have stood in the corner of a bar and been like, I don't care. But now it feels like there's a different energy because we've just been through something, our second pandemic as a community.
Yes.
And we want to be better. So Delta's booming. Our membership is as big as it's ever been. And I think that's because we need each other. And I'd like to think we all need each other a little bit more. So on that, the next question, I'm going to start with Michael this time. His third question, third. I just want to hear a time when your club was functioning at its peak, when the members and the mission and the energy were all sort of in stride. What did that moment look like? When was it, and what did you do?
Here's the funny thing about that is that primarily we're a social club. We just had a discussion about this too, whether we were more, a social club or whether we were more a charitable organization or whether we were somewhere in the middle. But primarily we're a social club. We're a resource for the members. And surprisingly, some of the most successful times where the club brothers really came together in support of each other and in support of the various charities that we were working towards and stuff to make them a success happened during COVID when we were separated. And our Trimetry event last year was the most successful one we have ever had in terms of the amount of money we raised and the programming. We did it all online, and it was the first time for us to ever do that. And everyone had a great time. Surprisingly, they were all, oh, this is going to be so, unusual, but everyone had a great time. It was a lot of fun. And it was very successful, and people sort of stopped for a minute and said, oh, so we can do things even when we're not together and still be super successful and support one another and listen to one another and hear each other. And it was great. It was really, really great. It surprised a lot of people. And I think that it has helped in terms of interest in our club because we're about to enter the largest pledge class we've had in years. So that's good. We're happy about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mark?
Yes, I guess I have the questions in front of me, but this question seems to be a blend. I'm not quite sure
It's
how to
question
answer.
5. If you're looking at it, it's question 5, darling.
Oh, tell us a time when the club's mission energy hit a great coming together. Okay. Well, I think the first pandemic, the HIV crisis. The first thing we did, because we do this charity event every year from our inception, was we decided that, children get AIDS. And we found this foster care agency, then called Leak and Watts, which is now called Rising Ground, which we still do our party for to this day. And we switched doing it because they were the first organization that ever allowed same-sex parents to foster care children with AIDS. They were the very first. And since then, we have been holding this Toys for Tots event, holiday event, to gather gifts, raise money, and support this organization, which we think is so important. We're doing it again this year. This will be I think it's about our 30th time, close to that, with them. And again, membership, as I mentioned before, wanes and ebbs, depending upon what's going on at the time. With the second pandemic, believe it or not, the one that we're in now, because we do have those social distance machines, we have been thriving a bit. We still have not caught up to our max, which is 25 active members, but we have included a new category of associate memberships. We never had that before 6 years ago, or maybe a little bit longer. And we still have the same criteria. You must be an active motorcyclist, and you have to, instead of as a full member, have 4 rides to do per year, club supervised rides. You have to have at least 1 as an associate member out of the 50 miles New York City, radius, circumference. So we've expanded, not unlike Onyx, although not to that degree. We've expanded to Pittsburgh. We have associate members in New Jersey, upstate New York, and we had an associate in Boston, but he moved to New York around 10 years ago. He's our current treasurer. So yeah, we're expanding, and because it's so important, the way we can support each other. I think that's kind of answering the question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Sage, now, Onyx New York has been around since you said
2012.
Okay, so my activity in the leather community in New York has been along with Onyx. So I've watched it grow here in New York, and it's been fantastic. Tell me what you've seen, because Deck the Balls is one of the best parties.
I've seen it grow. I've seen it, like I say, we've had lines with as many as 15 pledges. And then we've had lines where the line before I crossed, they started with 3 members and only 1 crossed. So, sometimes that happens. People ebb and flow. I do think there are times when you get the outside world gets to see you, and then you wet everybody's whistle. And when we do things like Deck the Balls or our presence at Folsom East, we get a lot of attention, and a lot of people want to come out and do things with us. And I think that's great. I did want to say to Mark, I've never ridden a motorcycle, and the brothers from Empire said, "I'll take you on a ride," and I got the first motorcycle. I loved it, and it's like I'm no longer a virgin. So I had a great so that was really wonderful. And I think it's really important that we do merge and work with each other because we're all in the city together and we want all our clubs to thrive. And looking at Onyx, I think that it depends on leadership, how you reach out to people, who keeping people active and participatory. We have a mixed rap depending on who you talk to. There are guys who come along and say, "I just thought there was a sex club." You know, why'd you hear that? You go, "Oh, well, you're all have sex all the time with each other." It's like, "Oh, really? I missed that day because I didn't get that memo." And other people think of us as a fraternity or a social group that we get together and we do
Yes.
social things and so on and so
Yes.
forth. And one of the biggest things we do is our deck the balls, which we do for a charity. Every year we find a different charity. We didn't do it last year because we didn't do deck the balls because of COVID, but we're getting ready for it this year, which is going to be the 11th of December at the Eagle. Shameful plug. And
Plug.
right? And we're looking forward to it. Because it's really going to be great to have organizations come out. And interestingly, we're going to do it different this year. We are asking for former title holders instead of the people from the audience to be the people in the contest. We're using former title holders, whatever title you held, to be the participants on. And we're going to do stocking stuffers. So you can stock your stuffing. Stock your stuff your stocking, yes. And it'll be really fun, and we're going to invite other clubs and everybody to participate. So it's those kind of things that's going to say we are this leather community. It's not just one group. We have to think of ourselves as a community, and when we thrive, we all can thrive.
Well, I'm going to take that as a jumping off point because one of my dear friends says, "I don't wear leather to sell raffle tickets. I wear leather." And oh, I'm sorry. Was there a technical glitch there so that Facebook Live
a little
shut us
bit
off? How about that?
I love that.
But the idea is we all come together because we have interests in leather or motorcycles or some. I mean, there's a sexual aspect. That's at the core of a lot of why these clubs exist in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
What, if any, responsibility do you all feel as club leaders to look beyond your own club, your own circle, and help to maintain community? Leather Pride Night is gone. There have been people who are like, let's bring it back. And the answer has always been, when there are people to do it, absolutely.
Right.
What responsibility do we have as leaders in the community to corral people? Because it's not easy to get people to come together. It's herding cats on a good day.
Yes.
Who wants to start with this one?
I think Michael made a great point real quickly about we three gentlemen are men of a certain age, but a certain wonderful age.
Yeah.
Howsoever, we need to really motivate and attract younger brothers and sisters to our communities.
Yes.
When we step aside, the organization's going to continue. That's what I want to say. Now I'll let Michael start.
Onyx does an amazing job with that. I mean, your pledge process is I think one of the best there is in terms of vetting and making sure that the people that join are engaged and active and out there and supporting. And I think that's wonderful. I love that. I feel like
you feel so
cheeseburger.
Good,
yeah. So I guess the role that I feel that leather clubs play in the community today are we're a remembrance of what our heritage is, of what it is, of what it looked like, because it doesn't look exactly the same today. Yes, it's changed. When we have a home bar, we're not working behind the bar anymore. Okay, we're not having all of our events at that one bar, but we are having a home bar. We're declaring it. We're awarding our colors to the bar as a memory of what it was. The bar's hanging those colors over the bar, so that when people ask questions, you go like, what are these banners here? Well, I'll tell you what those banners are. This is what they are. This is what it once was. This is how it worked. And I think that's pretty wonderful, because it engages people. People like history. A lot of people don't even realize, parts of it. And I love when people ask me questions about it and I have the opportunity to talk about it. One of the things that I think is so great that's going on right now with the Eagle is they're putting the kitchen back in. That's a remembrance of the fact that the old Eagle was a longshoremen's club originally and became the bar. And they
had wonderful brunches.
I know it's absolutely wonderful, because it's just a reminder of what it was, and that yes, it looks different today, but that's okay. That's okay. Things change and grow and morph, and we figure it out. And that's kind of what I feel like the role of leather clubs are today, in addition to being a place where if you have a deeper sort of interest in the leather community and want to be with a group of individuals that are more engaged with it, you can ask questions, that can be resources, that can sort of mentor you per se in a more traditional leather situation. That is where that lives now. That is where the opportunity is, and I think it's awesome. I think it's really cool.
I want to chime in with two things. There is, I think is it Scott from the Marauders who's been cataloging the Boston Eagle as it has been dismantled, like every flag, every banner, every smoke stain, the history.
Scott is amazing in the breadth of knowledge that he has.
His feed has been incredible.
Yeah.
It's been history. It's been very sad to see it dismantling, but watching these names and these symbols fly past again has been really fantastic.
And it will be back. It will. It'll come back.
It's important to have.
I also want to say one of the roles of the clubs and the community as it was that I think we still see around some, when there's somebody new in a bar.
Yeah.
They need people to steer them in the right direction. Clubs used to be you knew who was in a club, the bartenders knew who were in the clubs because they were in there. It was a safety thing. It was a way to make sure that new voices and new people weren't abused. And I think one of the things that's great is that when we are in the club and we know, oh, so-and-so's with Excelsior, so-and-so here's from Onyx, somebody's going to know this person.
Right.
Yeah, in terms of safety. And also another thing that you touched on is the fact that years ago, you could go to the DC Eagle, you go to the Boston Eagle, not knowing anyone, but if you wear your club colors and you have your name tag on you, people come up from other clubs and introduce you and make you feel welcome. And that is something that has been missing and hopefully can get reinstated. Because one of the questions that you're asking is, what could we as leaders of the community do? And I think we could foster some of these older behaviors that still work today.
I mean, this is a really passionate issue for me. I am right at the age, you say 3 men of a certain age. I'm 48, which makes me a little bit younger, but not
a little, honey. You could be my granddaughter.
But the point is, I came in on the tail end of a moment.
Especially if I'm from the South.
And she's my daughter. She's your daughter. She's your granddaughter.
Coming in on the tail end of a moment as things were starting to wind down. Being around the table at LPN when we said we can't do this anymore.
Right.
Michael will tell you, we were, trying to staff this panel, trying to program this. It's been a real effort because the energy required to get people to want to connect, particularly in the last 2 years, I mean, there's the I need to connect, but then there's the I want to do something extra. It's hard
Well,
to be extra right now.
Mark said something interesting. Mark's been president for 10 times. It's unfortunate, you know, years when we've had 20 members on the record and 7 people would not step up to be officers.
Yeah.
So it's like, so what do you do when you have 25 people who are on the record of a party to do some work?
Right. Well, then again, I've been a member for over 44 years.
I understand that. I'm just saying sometimes it's hard, as he said. It's like her what did you say, corralling cats. You know, if people don't want to do the work. They want to do the fun part, but they don't want to do the work to keep the organization afloat. And sometimes that's difficult. But then the other thing, like for me, this last class that we just crossed over, they all said, I'm really feeling much more old guard than I am new guard. I want old traditions. I'm like, you really do? And like, I love that because they want to hear about having their leather passed on to them. Or they want to hear about how they go through the ranks to become a boy, a daddy, a sir, so on and so forth, as opposed to, oh, I bought this hat, so now I'm a master. It's like, the hat doesn't make you a master, baby girl. But, you know, it's okay. You look cute, but I'm not gonna fight with you about it. But sure, I think it's really important that we have the sense of tradition and the sense of history about what happens. But also have space that we do have the neoprene girls, that we do have the rubber children, that we do have the age play kids, as well as we have leather men who really want the Levi and leather feeling and aspects of the kink community.
Knowing what old school means without feeling tied to it 100%, because the world is shifting and changing.
Absolutely.
So again, a plea to our friends on Facebook. We are ready for your questions. We're chatting, but if you have questions, our good friend Chet is going to share them with us. Thank you, Chet. So just give us a holler. Tying in, there was a question that we were talking about a little bit earlier before we started the live feed about the leather closet. And I don't mean where we hang our vest. Trying, you know, there are a number of leather clubs in the Northeast. And the number of clubs that did not want to send a member to participate in this conversation or couldn't find someone willing to talk really astonished us. And the question is about, I guess it comes down to the stigma of sex again, because this world is leather and kink is part of sex. What is it? Where is the pressure that you feel, that you see, for people to still remain anonymous in their desires and anonymous in the community? And is that a driving force, or are we just dealing with COVID and Zoom, which we're all tired of?
You know, one of the things I'm not sure, I know that in my community, it's about motorcycling. And I got into motorcycles through leather. It seemed to be a natural progression for me. And what I'm really seeing is a family. So to say that it's just about sex, at least for me at 74, it's not just about sex. It's about family and community. And yes, sex is a part of it because sex is a way of communicating.
You're absolutely right. I apologize for putting it all on that. My own club thinks it very seriously as a brotherhood, but for some reason there's this unwillingness to go public.
Sure.
Yeah.
I will speak for myself. I'm 66. I joined Onyx. I had been an interest in leather 25 years ago. I didn't do it because of my work and perception of who I was and what I did professionally and so on and so forth. After I turned 50, I gave less a blank, um, so that I won't get beat out about what people thought about me. And I was able to join organizations and say who I was, and didn't care that people knew that I liked kink and leather and did other things. And that was really liberating for me. I am often marveled at the Kenzos of the world who, at his young age, has done X, Y, and Z already. It's like, when I was your age, I was still worried about finding a boyfriend, let alone like winning titles and being out public and so on and so forth. So I think it's a very different world that they are much younger and they find out things a lot faster, but it's also a lot more freer. You know, when you the same sex stuff, the non-binary stuff, the the pronoun stuff that we all deal with now, those things didn't happen 25 years ago. And so now that we're at a place where that happens on a regular basis, it does open up the world for a lot more people to try a lot more things. I was at a restaurant saying, a guy walked up to me and said, I didn't know you were into leather. I said, excuse me? He said, oh, I saw some pictures at the Eagle. I saw a picture of you, and I've known you for years. I never knew that. I was like, was there a reason for you to know that?
Did you
And are you?
ask?
And I said, and are you interested? He said, oh, yes, I am. I said, well, we can have a conversation. This is over. So it was real interesting that, he just walked up and said, I didn't know you were into leather. Well, yeah, I'm into a lot of things. Thank you very much.
Okay,
So, yeah.
we do have an interesting question, and I think this is a fascinating one.
Yes, from
Um,
chat.
What do you think is the biggest misconception about your club, or something people are surprised to discover after joining? Anyone want to take that one?
Yeah, I will. I think that we're a brotherhood and that we're a family and that we're caring to each other for our brothers. We have an accident fund founded by a member who recently died, an emeritus member who recently died. And this fund is designed for members who get into a motorcycle accident and need money to either repair their bikes or to help them with medical bills. It's a loan-free situation. We charge no interest, and people pay us back when they can. People don't realize that when they're going to join. They don't realize about the brotherhood and the caring and the concern and the fact that we'll go out of our ways to help each other in whatever ways we can. So that is a misconception about our club. We never really got a misconception about being SM or BD or anything like that because they knew that we were into motorcycling. So there wasn't a misconception there. Whereas in some clubs, misconceptions have been stand and model. I don't know if you were around before, that was a very big thing. S&M stood for stand and model. So those were some of the misconceptions that went around.
I was always a fan of Armistead Maupin's joke that S&M stood for Streisand and Midler. But no one knows who Streisand is today unless they're over 40.
I love Streisand, one of my favorites.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
We've encountered one recently where, because there seems to be such a lack of like general sort of guidance, knowledge base in the leather community out there, we've encountered a number of people that have come to us and felt like, oh, this is like a sex club, and we're like, no, that's not what it is. That's not what it is, because they're looking for sort of how to find people with similar interests and things like that. And we've been a little bit like, yeah, that's kind of, we're a social club. We're not so much that. And in fact, through a lot of our history in the Excelsiors, that hasn't been a big part of it, because we felt like it has a tendency to create issues within the club, and so that hasn't really been a big part of that over time.
Interestingly, we had the same issue depending on who you talk to, they'll either tell you Onyx is a sex club, it's a fraternity, or it's a social club. And the ones who think it's a fraternity, they often ask, is there a hazing process? And what does that entail? But there's no hazing, there's a pledge process. And they also, and depending on who you ask, they also think that sex is involved in it. So that's been one of the biggest things. And things, and it also has been really hard. But we have a rule that pledges are not to be touched by brothers during the pledge conference. And even no matter how cute they may be and how much they flirt, because you are good in bed or because you're not good in bed, that should not be a reason why you get to cross or not cross. And that was really important for us to reiterate time and time again. And that's a rule that goes on through all the chapters, that you're not supposed to touch, unless you have a pre-existing relationship, that I'm crossing and such is my lover, that's already done. But you can't tell somebody not to be with their lover. But if someone is just walking in and say, "Oh, I'm gonna snatch you up," like, no, you can't snatch them up until after the crossing is over. So yeah, that's the biggest. I think that's the biggest misconception that we deal with about the sex club stuff.
Okay, we have a question that actually that segues nicely into from the audience. How do you deal with rifts among club members where personal egos get in the way of the club's mission, when the rift often leads to the club's splitting up? Now, this is a very interesting question, and a lot of this actually, depends on the size of the club. The more members you have, the more you can sort of not pay attention to somebody who's over there doing stuff. But we're talking about the three clubs that we're representing here tonight. You're small enough that a rift and a couple of problematic egos could be damaging. The Eagle from London is watching and says hello to our friends in the UK. My goodness, it's late there, but you're all Leathermen, so you're still awake. Bless your heart.
Tally ho.
Who wants to take this one about?
I would like to, because my club has been through rifts. I think I alluded to the time that some of the members didn't like the formality, and they went and they, became another club that just rode and had very little stringent. They did not have any stringent membership. That was a major break that occurred to us in the early 80s.
Are they still around?
I don't believe so. We've had also issues with members who've had problems with other members. And usually the E-board, the executive board, meaning the president, vice president, treasurer, secretary, and road captain, will meet to talk about the best approach as to how to handle that person, so as not to attack his ego, but rather to try and, gently herd the cat, so to speak, encourage. And it's not always successful. However, what is successful is that the club remains together, even if that individual may end up ultimately leaving.
Yeah, sometimes we have people leave.
Yeah, it has occurred, I think, but our organization, our club is strong enough, I believe, to really keep our structure intact.
At the end of the day, the space the clubs hold is so important that, given the right word of encouragement, most people, I think, will step back a moment to let the space the club has thrive. It's really important. Michael, is there anything you want to add to that?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay.
I was going to say that sometimes people want to take their toys and go home, and they can't play nice with others.
Bye-bye.
And sometimes you say bye-bye. We can have lunch, go to have a drink someplace else. If you're not a member, you don't want to be your clothes anymore, I can't make you. And don't think that because you left, I'm going to leave. That was your issue. That's not my issue. Because you don't like him doesn't mean I have to not like him. I keep telling them, this is not Mean Girls. Y'all got to be better than 14-year-old schoolgirls.
And sometimes it's not even about a rift. It's just looking for something different. Delta was formed in the early 90s when a group of guys who went to Inferno all the time were looking for a space that had a different focus, that at that point allowed men of trans experience to participate, which was not part of the Inferno experience. Um, so, it's not necessarily a problem with your group. It's just there's a different experience that people want.
Right.
And that's
Something
healthy for groups to grow and new groups to form. And I think it's a wonderful world where we can all look around and appreciate the breadth and depth, and the fact that we all came to this for different reasons, and our clubs all came into being for different reasons, and that there's room for them.
Right, diversity and inclusion.
I mean, I look forward to the day. We're talking, there are men's clubs, there are motorcycle clubs. There are clubs like Chicago Hellfire and Delta and Sigma that are more based in kink practice than motorcycles. There are social groups like GMSMA and TESS and LSM and groups like MAST, Masters and Slaves Together. They're still out there. They're still existing, serving needs.
Absolutely.
And it's a really wonderful, vibrant community that, comes together when it needs to. And I think we're in a moment where we would all love to see more coming together. And that's why we're here. And that's why we're talking.
I know for me, it was great to come to my first Eagle Christmas party and saw all of the different ornaments. And I was like, where's this organization? Where's the organizations I had heard of in the past that I didn't think still existed, or saw some new organizations? I think, like you said, Witti, that it's important that these different groups still exist and provide a different service, if that's what you want.
We have one last question that we'll take. And I think this is the concept of no kink at Pride. What do you make of it? Where do you think it came from? I'm going to respond to this and say the no kink at Pride. I'm sorry, I'm a drag queen and a leather man.
Or girl.
If I were a person of color, Stonewall was about me. Drag, leather, and people of color saying enough is enough. Fuck this shit. Ooh, sorry, Facebook.
Okay.
No kink at Pride. We are all varying in why we come into this community. We are all othered for some reason. To say no kink at Pride asks us to deny a part of the essential nature of our beings and what makes us us. We just want to be like everybody else. No, we don't. We're too fabulous to be like everybody else. So don't tell me there's no drag at Pride. Don't tell me there's no leather at Pride. Let me make the rules for when I think it's appropriate to show up in drag or in leather. And don't fucking tell me that I can't be there, because I'm not going to have much time for you if you want to exclude people. Michael.
I have a question about that. Do you think that
sorry, I feel very strongly.
Do you think that the concept of no kink at Pride is actually real, or just something that has been latched onto? Because I feel like I've been to Pride for a long, long time, and I have always seen kink at Pride.
I think part of it is that when they have sponsors and making it available for TV and things like that, that the people that they show were the people that they thought were ready for prime time or for the 7 o'clock hour. I know that at one point that the lesbians on the Dykes on Bikes, they asked them not to have the women that were topless, because that was nice for the news and so on and so forth. And
perfectly legal in New York City, though. Perfectly legal.
I think
I'm arguing the point. I agree with you. I'm talking about for the corporate sponsors. Pride. World Pride was 27,000 hours because every corporate organization wanted to have their float before the people got a chance to walk. And it's like, at what point do you say this is about us and not about you saying we are the world, we are the children? So I don't know. I think Michael, it's a real thing, but people buck the system. They go, I'm gonna wear a jock. I'm gonna have my chest out. I'm gonna kiss my boyfriend and move on.
Mark?
I remember when GMSMA used to have a huge banner and people would walk with it. Well, unfortunately, with AIDS, a lot of the leadership of GMSMA ended up dead. And, the organization ended up just disappearing and leaving remnants and people picked up here and there. But I always believed there was kink at Pride. Maybe Dykes on Bikes because they're about motorcycles. And their kink is part of some of them and not all of them. Just like kink is part of my club, but not all of our members. Some of our members are just into biking. Others are just into wearing leather on bikes. Other people wear leather, smell leather, like leather, are into biking, but they're into leather, they're not into SMBD. There's a whole variation of kink that exists. And I don't know, I do believe there is kink at Pride.
There is. I think there are people who are trying to keep it out. I think that's the question.
I haven't heard that though. That I don't understand. I feel like I haven't heard like an overt attempt to keep it out.
There have been. I remember, was it not the last March on Washington, but the one before that, where they were like, no drag queens? It's like, who do you think started this? It comes from a place of assimilationism where we want to be just like everybody else. And I'll sort of close this. There was a wonderful musical, a review called When Pigs Fly, which was based, it was an off-Broadway review based on the designs and the costumes of Howard Crabtree. And there's a song called The Color Out of Colorado. And it talks about how you can't take the color out of Colorado and you can't make us all like everybody else. We are doctors and lawyers and accountants, but that's not just who we are. It was a different philosophy. In 1964, you had people in their Sunday best protesting in Philadelphia, the Daughters of Bilitis and Barbara Giddings, and the work they were doing in Philadelphia. Then you had the Compton cafeteria riots in California. You had Stonewall in New York. It took a village of different approaches to get to where we were. And you can't take out the accountants or the people walking in their Sunday best, much like you can't take out the trans women of color or the leather men. We're all part of this. And I think that's part of what makes this conversation, if I can be so segue-ish, exciting, is that we are all here together trying to figure out which corner of which space best suits us today. There are different clubs for different interests and different people who can come together and find out that in common, we all want something a little different, and that means we all want something together. So before I say good night and thank you, which I will do, to our audience, before you tune out, join us on Saturday night in person at the Eagle on the 30th for the Halloween party. We have the contest judging starting at 10:30. I will be there hosting. The contest itself starts on stage at midnight. We have $1,000 top prize, so you should join us there.
What are you wearing, Witti?
You'll have to show up and see.
Oh, that's so not fair. No.
I'm a drag queen on Halloween. I could show up as a boy in a jock strap and it would be different. Come on.
And you would win.
Yeah, I don't compete. But as you were saying, former title holders coming together, former title holders in the room do help with the second round of judging. So we pay attention to that. Our next Continuum event will be actually on Friday, November 12th. It's a very exciting event. We're bringing in the Generations Project to do some very interesting storytelling stuff. That will actually also be in person at the Eagle as we start to move back toward in-person events. I don't know if we've talked about broadcasting it yet or not. I know we had talked about hybrid events to transition. I am hearing that it will also be online. So that will be...
What time, Witti, on Friday?
That program starts at 7.
Okay.
So we will be doing the Generations Project on the 12th there. And that weekend, fingers crossed, the new expansion of the first floor of the Eagle. So come in person because it is going to be exciting times. While everything else in this world was reducing itself, the New York Eagle is expanding, and we are so excited to be part of that community. So I want to say big thank you to Daddy Sage Onyx for joining us. Mark Wind, Empire City MC, you bring such a wealth of history going back. Yes, you could be my grandfather if we were from Alabama, and generations were, 10 years apart. Michael, our dowager, Mr. Eagle, New York, our most
That's
recent.
better than the COVID eagle that I get too.
I'm not calling anybody COVID, but I'll call you the dowager because you know. And much love and thanks to Chet Peterson, who's been helping us on this program, and Derek Denton and his partner Robert Burke for giving the Eagle to the community in such a wonderful way. This space is something they champion, and they challenge us to rise to that. So thank you, Derek. Thank you, Robert. Chet, Michael, Mark, Daddy Sage, thank you all so much for being here. I'm Witti Repartee for Continuum, and we will see you live on stage at the Eagle Saturday night and on November 12th.
Yay. Bye.
Wave while they turn off the live stream.
Wave.
We're still live.
We're still
live. We're still live. We're still live. We're still live.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Have a good day.
Okay, you bet. Good night now.